Hey everybody, today I'm going to review Ryobi's brand new P516 18V 1 Plus reciprocating saw. This is going to be one of the newest additions to the 18V 1 Plus lineup, and it will be a replacement for the current P514 model. This is a big upgrade as far as power, runtime, and really overall construction, and it really resembles their corded model if you compare them side by side. So what I want to do in this video is give you some closer up looks at this. We're going to go over all the different features, but we'll also be comparing it to the older cordless as well as the corded model so you can see where the similarities are. Then we're going to do extensive runtime and performance testing, and I'm going to show you firsthand the type of job that this is going to do for you. Here's a closer look at the saw, and I do want to point out right off the bat that the green portion you see is a very hard plastic. The gray portion extending around the grip as well as around the front of the unit is going to be a softer rubber overmold. It's coming in at roughly only 5 pounds and including a 4 amp hour high capacity battery pack. It's only about 8 inches high, 4 inches wide, and then overall it's about 17 inches long. Installing a blade in the saw is extremely easy to do, and unlike some older units that you would have to loosen up a set screw with an Allen key, all you have to do is pull up on this tab near the front. Now this will automatically lock it in the open position. You'll take your blade, stick it in the end of the unit, and then press that back down. It's automatically locked in, and now the saw is going to be ready to go. On the top of the grip, just above the variable speed trigger, you'll notice a large switch that will slide left to right. This is the trigger lock, and if we see it's unlocked, the saw will work. And if we press it the opposite direction, it's going to lock it, preventing it from accidentally turning on. Now, unlike the previous version that would have a switch up here, but you would have to hold it all the way to the left or the right in order to activate the saw, this one will allow you to lock it in either position. And when you do have it unlocked, that trigger is going to be variable speed, meaning that you can control exactly how fast the saw is going to operate. If you want to cut very slow, just barely press in on it. Or if you want to cut very fast, up to 2,900 strokes per minute, you can press in on it all the way. And this is also going to have a very fast cut because the maximum stroke of the blade is a full 1 1/8 inches. One thing that I noticed the first day that I used this was the large protective boot around the front did a great job at protecting the tool from whatever surface I was setting it on. Now normally if you think about a rubber bumper, you would think about protecting the surface from the tool, not the opposite of that. But because this wraps completely around the front, even when I set it down on bricks, the rubber is what's touching the brick, not the plastic part of the tool. So not only is that going to prevent it from sliding around on me if the surface isn't even, it's also going to do a great job at protecting the tool from accidental damage. When we take a look at the P516 versus its corded equivalent, you can see where they pulled in some design features from that heavy-duty version, and now they put it into the cordless version. Now also keep in mind, because this one is cordless, it only needs a battery pack in order to operate, and there's no need to have a power outlet or extension cord in order to use it. And when we take a look at it side by side versus the previous version, which is the P514, you can see that Ryobi has upgraded over the older, slimmer, more sleek, lightweight design with a small motor and short stroke length. And using the exact same 4 amp hour high capacity battery pack, the new version is going to be able to get a lot more work done on just one charge. The handle is known as an anti-vibration handle, and it's designed specifically to absorb a lot of the force as you're using this. In fact, we can press in on that and you can see the movement. That means that it's going to be absorbing the force and not your hand or your arm. The shoe on the front of the saw actually has 2 different functions, and if we notice, it can pivot back and forth. And as we're making a cut, we can move the saw and keep the shoe pressed directly against the material to minimize vibrations, making a better cut and really extending the life of your blade. But to really extend the life of your blade and utilize teeth that you normally wouldn't use as you're making a cut, the shoe is also adjustable in and out. In order to do that, just above the battery pack, you'll notice an Allen key. We'll pop that out, and then they have a set screw right here at the front of the grip. So all you have to do is take your Allen key, slide it in place, and then loosen that set screw up, and now the shoe will move in and out. Now if you pull it out too far, it's just going to pop completely out of the unit. But if you pull it out towards the end and then you tighten that set screw back down, it's going to lock in place. And now you can see that we would utilize a different part of the blade, really extending the overall life of it. What you'll run into eventually are missing teeth or rounded off teeth back towards the beginning of the blade. And what that's going to mean is you won't have very effective cuts. By moving this out, you'll then use teeth that you normally wouldn't be using. You'll have a lot better cuts and you'll get a lot more use out of that blade. A big advantage of having a cordless reciprocating saw like this one along with a pruning blade means that you can walk around your yard and trim trees, or you can even take a large branch that falls, cut it up into manageable sized pieces, and then haul it to the landfill or your burn pile. Using it to trim trees around your yard, especially small branches, would be a lot more ideal because it's going to cut a lot faster. But if you need it to cut larger branches, it's also not going to have a problem. To prevent accidental damage to the saw, they do have an overload protection system built in, which is designed to save the motor as well as the internal portions if it does sense an overload situation. Now typically that's only going to happen one of two ways. If you're outside cutting tree branches and the branch pinches the blade, causing a bind situation, it will kill power to the motor, instantly stopping the blade and preventing you from messing something up. The other way that you'll typically run into it is to just make a standard cut, but as you take your second hand and you're pressing down on the saw to make the cut, you're just pressing too hard, putting too much force on it. You really want to let the weight of the saw make the cut and just use your hand to guide it through. But if you take your hand and you're pressing down with a lot of force, that will kick in that overload protection, automatically killing power to the motor. Now if that does happen to you, to reset it, all you'll have to do is release the trigger and then pull it back in, and it's going to instantly start cutting again. And what I'm going to do now is really demonstrate that for you. Using a standard 2x4, I'm going to press down once I start my cut very hard, and then you'll see the overload protection kick in. Just watch my hand when that happens. I'm going to relieve some of the pressure from the hand guiding the front of the unit. I'll then pull back in on the trigger and you'll see that it's going to instantly start back up. If you notice, my hand is still pulled in on the trigger. I pressed down on this way too hard, but I can release the trigger, and once I pull back in on it, the blade's going to start back up again. Now to see how it does cutting through nail embedded wood, I have a pressure treated 4x4 post. I'm going to hammer in 20 nails in the end of it, and then we're going to see if it can cut through all of them. And taking a look at it, it never slowed down, it didn't stall out, and it cut through all 20 nails with no issues. For a more extreme performance test, we're going to try and slice through 2 stacked pressure treated 2x10s. Now let's say you're going to be removing a deck off the back of your house. This is something you might run into, and it would be a very hard cut to do with other types of saws. So we'll go ahead and line it up and see if the saw can make it through it. Now for a runtime test, I have a fully charged 4 amp hour battery pack. I have a fresh Diablo reciprocating saw blade. We're going to see how many cuts we can get through a standard 2x4 on just one charge. $123 cuts through a standard 2x4 on one 4 amp hour battery charge. So now you've seen Ryobi's brand new P516 18V 1+ reciprocating saw for yourself. This is going to be a big upgrade over the previous version, and like I showed you in those clips, it looks very similar to the corded unit. And the big plus over the corded unit would be the fact that you don't have to have extension cords or a power source nearby, because it's going to run off any of the 18V 1+ battery packs. Now, in order to get those massive run times, you would want to use one of the 4 amp hour high capacity packs. But if you had an older NiCad pack or even one of the compact packs, they will power it the same way. However, you can't get that much work done on just one charge. Now, the different features that they have built into this, I think, are very useful, like that locking blade change mechanism, the adjustable shoe, and most importantly, the anti-vibe handle. That's not going to send all the vibrations back into your hand, making them numb like some reciprocating saws. And as far as the power levels inside as well as outside, we got a lot of work done, and it does cut very quickly. Now, this is going to be covered with a 3-year warranty against manufacturer defects, and if you happen to run into a problem with it during that time frame, Ryobi will fix or replace it for you free of charge. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.